And sometimes your ancestors will help you with this gift, even though it does not come from them. And the reason why it doesn't come from them part is so important is because a lot of us believe if it's not ancestral, then I can't have no parts of it. When the reality is, a lot of y'all don't even know where your ancestors come from. That's a whole nother thing. We're not gonna get into it. All right, so I have a channel message today, and I feel like it may ruffle some feathers. I'm not trying to ruffle any feathers. However, maybe I am. Not all of your spiritual abilities and talents, they're not all from your ancestors. Okay? And I want to make this very clear, and I want to be very meticulous in how I speak about this topic, because I am a person who thoroughly believes that you should work with your ancestors, and you should accept all of your ancestors. That's a whole nother topic. You can't pick and choose which ancestors you want to work with, depending on which ones are calling you to work with their systems and things like that. Whole nother video. However, all of your spiritual abilities are not given to you through blood. Okay, there are some specific abilities that you may have, certain things that you possess within yourself that have nothing to do with the ancestral realm. And this is important because, especially if you like this, especially people of the diaspora, people who do have African descent or come from that, sometimes even indigenous cultures, we tend to think that anything that is good, anything that is magical, has to come from the ancestors. And I'm not saying that that's not true, but I'm saying there are some people who have certain abilities and gifts that come from something a little bit higher than the ancestors. Not to put the ancestors down by any means, because we are essentially the makeup of who we come from, right? However, there are certain gifts that override. There are certain missions and assignments that God has given to people that sometimes override the ancestral plane, so to speak. So, in other words, you may be talented in a certain method that your family has used for years and years and years, or you may be good at cooking, you may be good at herbalism, you may be good at root work, things like that. Those are ancestral things because those are things that your people have practiced, and over time it does get passed down. Whether it's passed down through you studying how a person does something, like literally being around them, growing up with them, or through just a natural ability to grasp onto things that they were good at, people from your past. However, there are also things that sometimes we are conflicted with it because it doesn't come from your ancestors. It doesn't come from the family that you're from. It doesn't come from the culture that you're from. However, it is something, or that you're aware of, but it's something that you know for a fact is like calling you, and you know that it's something that's supposed to be done. It's something that's supposed to be worked on and cultivated. And sometimes this is a gift that other people can't really understand, especially when it comes to family and ancestors, because it's not what they're used to. And so these are those things that cause people to feel like the black sheep in the family, or they could be the one who stands out, or the one who's just different. And they see things differently a lot of times. Spiritually speaking, you should lean into it. You should know, what is it? Where does it come from? What am I supposed to do with that? Why is it such a noticeable thing in my path? You know what I'm saying? Like, why is there such an elephant in the room when it comes to this ability? The message that I was given was very clear. Not all of your connections, not all of your abilities will deal with your ancestors. It does not negate your ancestors. It does not demote them in any way. The thing that we have to start understanding is that humans, we are multi-dimensional beings. And that sounds super like sci-fi, but honestly, if you think about it, it's really not that far-fetched. And if you have certain abilities that allow you to connect, and you've worked on that, you know that that's a real thing. It's the same reason why we go to sleep and we dream and we drift off somewhere. It's the same reason why some people are able to connect with spirits with an S, okay? Because there's more than one spirit. That's the reason why sometimes you're able to do things and make things work, and to conjure, and to how some of you guys like to say, like, the power of the tongue. Like, those are the reasons why, because we're connected to different parts of existence and life. And of course, with any good, there will be a bad, because there's no such thing as a one-sided piece of paper. Okay, so there's always a good and bad to everything. Okay, so I don't want to hear, oh, well, connecting to this is bad. You choose what you connect to. And this is very common. If you want to dial it down into more of an earthly, mundane level, let's say everybody in your family is super religious, and then you're just that one who just doesn't, you don't have any connection to it. Even, and you've tried, maybe you've grown up in it and everything, but it's just not your thing, and you don't resonate with it. Now, some may say that's wrong, some may say that that's okay. It depends on your perspective. And it's the same thing with spiritual capabilities. When you are dealing with certain gifts that you're given, there's a certain maturity that has to come with that. There's a certain level of understanding, and then a certain level of acceptance within yourself. And you have to, that's the only way you'll really get to learn about what it is that you're dealing with. Because if you don't accept yourself, you're not going to be able to really receive the message. If you don't accept yourself, you're not going to be able to receive the messages that you're getting. You're not going to be able to pay attention and notice and observe the signs that God or the universe is mapping out for you to see. And sometimes your ancestors will help you with this gift, even though it does not come from them. And the reason why it doesn't come from them part is so important is because a lot of us believe if it's not ancestral, then I can't have no parts of it. When the reality is, a lot of y'all don't even know where your ancestors come from. That's a whole nother thing. We're not going to get into it. But what I'm saying is the vastness of spiritual capabilities and the vastness of ancestral connection spans back too far for you to say that this is not your ancestor stuff. You don't know what it is a lot of times, especially if you like this and you're from America or the Americas. Okay? So I'm not saying that you should discard your ancestors by any means, but I'm saying you sometimes you have to think a little bit broader than that scope, because that to me is also a way that they keep people in bondage. Sometimes if you're only looking from an ancestral point of view, you will miss so much more that's out there. And you'll miss a lot of ways that your ancestors can connect to other people, as far as like your ways, your culture. There's a lot of ways to expand and to connect. And to be fair, a lot of people, especially in the Americas back in the day, that were enslaved, a lot of them had ties with indigenous people, and they weren't the same people, but they merged together because of similarities and because of love sometimes, or just because of the same struggle. And if we have the same enemy, then you're all of a sudden you're my friend, you know? And so sometimes, like, I'm using that as an example to say a lot of customs are intertwined into the fabric of what's made you. However, there is a distinction between cultures and customs, and then there's also a distinction of this is from your ancestors and this is from something else. And so everyone, it's like you don't want to be put in a box, but there is a reason why things have labels. There are a reason why things are in categories. Okay, and everything shouldn't be all jumbled up together. You should be able to recognize this is from this culture, this is from that culture, this is what this represents to me, this is what this herb does for me. Like, all of these things have a reason and they have a place to go. You need to understand that you are a mixture of all of those things. And we're not talking about races. I'm talking about genuine spiritual capabilities and observations. You are a mixture of so many different things. Okay? And so you have to, if you want to grow, this is not for everybody. This is for the person who's on the journey and realizes there's a lot more that they're supposed to be tapping into. Once you get to that point, you can then start to play around and find what works for you, and find, even if something is calling out to you, see if it works for you. You don't have to engage with everything. That's another thing with this whole spiritual thing. You don't have to engage with everything. Okay? So choose wisely, be smart, but also take it easy. All right? So that was a very long message that I was not expecting to be that long. But hey, I have more videos coming out. If you want to see more, make sure you are subscribed to the channel, because I do have more videos coming out and I need you to see them. Because if you saw this one, I guarantee you there's more that you need to see coming up. All right. So thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.